Section A.3 Kubernetes. There are a few ways to install Kubernetes in your local environment. These are some of the most commonly used options. Minikube, minikube.sigs.k8s.io, lets you run a local Kubernetes cluster on any operating system. It's maintained by the Kubernetes community. kind.sigs.k8s.io, lets you run local Kubernetes clusters as Docker containers. It was primarily developed to test Kubernetes itself, but you can also use it for local development with Kubernetes. It's maintained by the Kubernetes community. K3D.io, lets you run local Kubernetes clusters based on K3s, a minimal distribution of Kubernetes implemented by Rancher Labs. It's maintained by the Rancher community. Feel free to choose the tool that best fits your needs. I'll be using Minikube throughout the book because of its stability and compatibility with all operating systems and architectures, including the new Apple Silicon computers. You should have at least 2 CPUs and 4 GB of free memory to use Minikube to run all the examples in the book. You can find the installation guide on the project's website, minikube.sigs.k8s.io. I'll be using the latest versions available at the time of writing, Kubernetes 1.24 and Minikube 1.26. On Mac OS, you can install Minikube with Homebrew as follows.
See this code?
Running a local Kubernetes cluster with Minikube requires a container runtime or a virtual machine manager. Since we are already using Docker, that's what we're going to use. Under the hood, any Minikube cluster will run as a Docker container. After installing Minikube, you can start a new local Kubernetes cluster using the Docker driver. The first time you run this command, it will take a few minutes to download all the components needed to run the cluster.
See this code?
I recommend making Docker the default driver for Minikube by running the following command.
See this code?
To interact with the newly created Kubernetes cluster, you need to install kubectl, the Kubernetes CLI. Installation instructions are available on the official website. See this link. On Mac OS and Linux, you can install it with Homebrew as follows.
See this code?
Then you can verify that the Minikube cluster is started correctly and check that a node is running in your local cluster.
See this code?
I recommend stopping Minikube whenever you don't need it to free up resources in your local environment.
See this code?
Throughout the book, you'll learn more about using Kubernetes and Minikube. Until then, if you would like to experiment with Kubernetes resources, I'll leave you with some useful commands. Table A.2.
Table A.2. Useful Kubernetes CLI commands for managing pods, deployments, and services.